Hey y'all, welcome to Up the Coast with Alex and Britt, and we are officially at Selection Show Sunday. Britt and I have been together all week long covering the ACC Championship. It's been a lot of fun. As you can see, we're finally together in person, and we are here in Bristol, Connecticut, gearing up for the show tonight, and we have you covered in studio. So, Britt, let's first recap a little bit about what happened this last week at the tournament. Crazy stuff across the board.
Yeah, I think it was the most exciting ACC tournament we've seen. We knew that the depth going into it, that this is the most competitive ACC league we've ever seen. And we had that expectation we'd see that in the tournament, and we did.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So much excitement. I don't think it's been a long time since we've had this much talent across the conference as a whole. Back-to-back years, Duke won last year, Clemson winning this year, crazy stuff. It's been a long time since Florida State hasn't been in the mix in a 2-year span. I feel like it's just the parity in the sport right now, parity in the conference. So let's start with kind of where the games began. First, we had that first round on last Wednesday, and there was 4 games, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll get a little further into it. But first game of the tournament was Cal and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech won 8-0. And so I feel like Georgia Tech really made a statement with this. When you look back at the regular season, Cal got the series in that one 2-1. I don't think I expected Georgia Tech to come out like they did.
No, they hadn't played. They played, 6 games in over 3 weeks this past month with everything that happened at Florida State and some rainouts. And then they had that last weekend off. So we were like, are they come out rusty or are they going to come out rested? And they definitely came out rested and just put it on Cal, which I think is a really big win for postseason-wise because at that time, Cal was top 25 RPI win, so that gave them a top 25 RPI win. My favorite part of the game was when Chelsea Spencer got tossed in the second inning. I mean, that's a long trip to be there for 2 innings. Georgia Tech came out and they needed to make a statement for the selection committee to get off that bubble, and I think they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just getting the win, but getting it in run rule fashion, 8-0 like that was really impressive. So shout out to Coach Morales and company. Your squad played really well. Coach Spencer kept it interesting for sure. That play at the plate. It was ruled in favor of Cal, and then they went back to the review. I also loved on screen where they got Amo, and she's like, like kind of just like gave like the shoulder shrug of like, gotta ask, and that it went in her favor. So that was really good. But yeah, so what a way to kick off the tournament. Really kept it interesting there. So good stuff. Next game, we had Stanford and Pitt. Stanford won 9-2. The bats were hot. This is a Stanford offense that has been top in the country in different categories. Really good.
Yeah, their offense was the big surprise for them this year, and they came out. They had been playing at BC all weekend, so they had been on that field for a while. They even scored, I think, 19 runs in Game 2 against BC, so they were swinging it coming in. But I will give shout out to Pitt, who made it back to the ACC tournament, and what Jenny Allard's doing there. They swung the bats well, too. A lot of barrels, a lot of good defense by Stanford to keep them at bay, but their offense. And then we saw the 3 pitchers like we always do. And they work their lineups because Chung can hit too, so she comes in and can leave and come back, and then Alyssa Houston comes in. So Alistair's super smart, obviously, so she has a way of working that pitching depth and rotation. So they were, I think that game was pretty much what we expected.
I agree. I do think, though, you make a good point on Pittsburgh. Their record, I don't think, shows how well they were playing towards the later half in the season. They got a couple of upset wins throughout just ACC regular season and were able to take some games from some teams. So that was good. Obviously fell short on that one. So Stanford getting, of course, the win there. Virginia and Louisville. Virginia won 3-2. This is where games started to get a little bit closer throughout the week, in my opinion, at least some. And this was just a pretty good game played by the Cardinals, and they surprised me with how much they were competitive. I felt like Virginia was going to come in having had the season that they have the last couple of years and kind of shut them down.
Yeah, I think everybody overlooked Louisville just because early in the season they struggled, but I think they definitely developed and got better as the year went on. Zabala in the circle, she's a bala. But she was great. You got that one. She was great. I think Louisville has a bright future. Char Lorenz in left field, the freshman. She's a player to watch. She made some outstanding plays on defense. She's leading that team in batting average, so the future's bright for her in that squad.
Yeah, some of the defensive plays really shone through this week. Some not so much, but Char Lorenz out there in left field, the diving play down the line, that was really good. North Carolina, Notre Dame. So UNC won this one 2-0. Still in that first round of games on Wednesday. Tough game. Again, I felt like Notre Dame put up a harder fight than maybe I anticipated. And this is a North Carolina offense that, too, is really good, led the conference in several categories with average and just different things like that. Of course, we know Stanford has the power, but UNC swings the bats well consistently. So I was pleased to see Notre Dame hold them like they did.
Yeah, and they're coming off of their series. So this was the fourth game in a row that they're playing each other. And for Notre Dame and their pitching staff, Michaela Castor in the circle does a great job of limiting extra base hits and free passes. And Kat Rodriguez sat at 83 RBIs for those 4 games, and they didn't let her break the record. Still tied for the ACC record, but they did a nice job. But my highlight from the 3 games they played earlier to this game was Kinneret Dart. I mean, she pitched almost 3 complete games, but she allowed 1 earned run in those 3 games, none on that game, but she looked good, and she had been struggling throughout the year. She's definitely their ace, but this is as best I've seen her.
Great. Not only did she look good, she looked like she was really enjoying herself too. Like, I haven't seen that much personality. Like, I knew she loved softball and was having fun, but like that was on a different level when it matters most, like in postseason, big tournament like that. Like, I love to see her playing light.
Yeah, if you haven't seen her post-game interview, my God, it was so exciting. I loved it.
Yeah, super sweet, super cute. Okay, and granted, we should probably say like super intense, but she was super light and fun, and I appreciate that. So, okay, quarterfinals. So this game of the day, this was Thursday. You had another 4-game slot, and so you had your number 1 seed Florida State playing against Georgia Tech that played their way into the tournament, basically. Florida State did win 8-0. Now, these were 2 teams that were supposed to play a couple weeks ago in a series during regular season. Obviously didn't get that chance given the unfortunate circumstance that happened on Florida State's campus, which I do think kind of worked in Georgia Tech's favor in the beginning. Like, Florida State is a team that's known for being really good at making adjustments, taking information, and allowing that to impact the way they play in the production. But Georgia Tech held them scoreless through 2 innings, and then Florida State bats kind of started to wake up.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech kept them off the bases early from their pitching, but also their defense, again, got them out of some jams, turned some double plays, made some nice plays. But like you said, Florida State, second time through the lineup, they're going to make adjustments, and Georgia Tech couldn't make adjustments to all the pitchers they saw.
Different pitchers, yeah, absolutely.
So this isn't the end for Georgia Tech, I don't believe. So
yeah, Knowles got the run rule there. Next game of the day was Stanford and Duke. Duke was the number 4 seed, Stanford number 5. Duke won 7-0. The only, I think, word I had at the time when this one went down was, wow. I thought this was going to be a good game. Like, I thought there were going to be a lot of runs scored. We know that Duke doesn't have the depth pitching. We know that Stanford gives a lot of free passes. So that was kind of like our storyline going into this is Duke going to have the discipline in the box to challenge the Stanford pitchers? And then is Stanford going to be able to attack Drugmuller knowing that she's been getting the bulk of the innings for Duke? I did not expect Drugmuller to hold Stanford to a shutout.
No, not at all. And credit to her to what she did. I mean, she has been carrying this team really, and for her to physically still be sharp, and it was that drop ball on the inside to all the lefties that Stanford had, and she was placing it perfectly. Her location was there, and then her off speed, she was able to throw it for a strike. And Stanford was just undisciplined, in my opinion. They were swinging early in counts, swinging out of the zone, not squaring balls up. Did not make Danny adjust her game plan one bit. She stuck with that drop ball in and that changeup, and that's all she had to do. And you mentioned the free passes. Every hit by pitch and walk that Stanford gave up came around to score.
Yep, absolutely. This was just a good old, like, Duke having the ability to manufacture runs, like we talk about all the time, in a lot of different ways. And it wasn't necessarily the power game. It wasn't anything in particular. It was just timely base hits. It was taking advantage of people being on base. And so, again, shout out to, Duke hitters getting the job done, and Drugmuller in the circle. I mean, again, carrying the load has been crazy. And this is the first time that the Stanford offense has been shut out this season. And every single game they've scored a run at minimum. And so just huge right there for Duke. I think gave me a lot of sign of life too with a team that I felt like was, again, lacking depth. Okay, game 3 of the day, Clemson and Virginia. This is where it starts to get a little bit spicy on the week. So Clemson wins 7-4. This was the Tigers' first comeback win of the tournament. Now, Virginia was leading the game for the majority of the game. Taylor Pipkins was absolutely clutch. She plays for Clemson, outfielder, freshman. When I say getting the job done, we mean it. Made a diving catch down the right field line. That was an absolute game saver there, and then comes back and hits the granny a little bit later. So impactful freshmen have been the name of the game for Clemson. And then the fight that we have seen it. We will get into it a little bit further here, but just I feel like slogan right now is why not us? And I don't know. I don't have an answer. Why not them?
No,
absolutely. So.
No, I think they believe in themselves and they never get down. That game was incredible for them to come back. And they had to come back in a big way, and they did.
And Reese Basinger, ACC Pitcher of the Year, and then Brooke McCubbin sharing time in the circle there, getting almost like a split right down the middle, getting the job done and as a 1-2 punch in the circle for the Tigers. Okay, so that was just like keeping it light for Clemson. We will get there. Last game of the day, Virginia Tech, North Carolina. Virginia Tech wins 4-0. This was the best that you'd felt Emma Lindley has looked in weeks.
Absolutely. It was one of those things. They had that weekend off coming into the tournament, and they needed it. You go back to that Pitt series where Pitt took the series, and Lindley didn't have control. To me, watching her, I mean, she had her confidence and her presence out there. You could see all the self-talk, but she just didn't have control of the ball. And I think sometimes as a pitcher, I was talking to Taryn about it, and she was like, sometimes you just lose that feel, and it looked like she had lost that feel, and then that carried on to Cal, and she's had the same issues. And then she goes to this North Carolina game, and her secondary pitches sharp, and then she could climb the ladder because she was able to get ahead, and that rise ball was there, and she looked fantastic.
Really good stuff. And this was a UNC team that really put up a fight too, but Emma Lindley in the circle shut it down. And Virginia Tech too, again, you mentioned Kenneray Dark earlier and how well she's done. This was a Kenneray Dark that kept a very good Virginia Tech offense scoreless until the 6th inning. And that's when the Hokies came through, made the adjustment. And what did Emma Lindley say? I told them to give me 1 and I'd give them 3, but they gave me 4. So I felt a little bit more confident going into
I will note that bottom of the 6th is when it started to rain. Okay. And that's I'm not going to give any excuses to Kenneray or anything, but she started to lose control.
She did. No, absolutely. You were right about that. We saw her dealing with like kind of digging in there, trying to find like the dry spots on the jersey or like the pants. The towel was wet at one point. Coach had to call time, come out, give her a dry towel and use his as well. So interesting stuff. And this was also Taryn McKinney or Taryn Mowat previous, but who's one of the best pitch callers in the game of softball. So shout out to you for also watching some ACC softball. But, okay, semifinals. This is where things get real spicy. Duke, Florida State start off the game. 2 games on this Friday. Duke and Florida State have the first one. Florida State wins 3-2. But we saw defensive miscues, and that's been, I think, the talk of the town for a couple of these teams in the ACC. Florida State sitting in the bottom half of fielding percentage in the conference. Defensive error for the Noles, error in right field. And when I say right field, it was actually by the second baseman, but in shallow right field. And this was a second base position that has been a little bit fluid all year long. We talk about depth. We talk about versatility. Florida State has a lot of depth in that position. You've got a pitcher with Annabelle Weidra that can pitch or play second. You've got people that will come in and play that second base, Christina Hartley, Annie Potter as well. And so just a lot of different movement, but also still needing to take care of the softball, have that good communication that we practice so much.
Yeah, and I think when you are constantly looking for the right piece, and it may be looking for the right offensive piece, and then putting him on defense too. And you miss that communication if you're not playing next to that person or in front of that person on a consistent basis. And I think there was a lack of communication or unfamiliarity that happened for that ball to drop.
Yeah, so Duke ends up scoring first. And then while on the topic of defensive miscues, bottom of the inning, Duke makes an error on a bad throw and Florida State ties the game. And then Florida State did end up going ahead in that same inning due to people getting on base by another error. And then just the RBI coming in with the situational hitting. So that was a close game. Duke put up a good fight in the top of the 7th. They came back to rally, scored 1. It was a lot of chaos out there on the field. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the
ground ball between Torres's.
That's right. Yep. The ground ball between Torres's legs and then Duke.
Then Amina Vega comes up to bat.
Oh,
right?
Scared. With two runners on it.
Exactly who they wanted up to bat. Yeah. And I feel like she did not have a great at bat. Like swung first or second pitch in a weak fly ball. You know, the pressure really is on the pitchers right there. And I think she's still young. I think next time she's in that situation, she'll handle it a little bit differently.
Yeah. And not that it didn't matter in that moment. Of course it did. Everyone is important. But yeah, like when your season's on the line, it's probably even more impactful. So hopefully turns that around in the next week. But yeah, you're right. Best offensive player, in my opinion, in that Duke lineup. So next game of the day was Clemson, Virginia Tech. This one was an absolute doozy. Clemson wins 10-9. Now, before we get into the intricacies, let's just lay the scene real quick. Clemson wins 10-9. This was a Clemson team that was down 9-2 going into the 6th. Okay? Now,
we were already moving to do our post-game show thinking there was going to be a run roll.
Yeah. So, you're spot on. Okay. And then we throw in weather, which weather, like you mentioned the day before, was like spotty this game. They did move these games up 3 hours on this Friday. So games started at 10 a.m. and we're going 10 a.m., 12:30 p.m. They were supposed to start the day at 1 p.m. and beyond. So games were moved up to try to get the games in. Now, this game, we question whether or not it should have continued at all because the weather was just that bad. Let's get into it. Let's talk weather.
It started raining early in the game, like the second inning.
Yep, I agree.
And it wasn't a downpour. It was a consistent rain. And you add that with the temperature, it felt like 40 degrees out there. And the argument that I heard is why they didn't postpone it or stop the game was because it didn't get any harder. And the rain didn't get any harder. Okay, I'll take that argument. But the accumulation of rain from the second inning or third inning to the sixth inning, it matters. The ball's going to be wetter. The dirt's wetter. The turf's wetter. Like, everything added up. And in my opinion, it was raining harder. I was questioning. I was like, why are we still playing? Like, why are we not advocating for these players? What about the integrity of the game? Are we worried that we're going to have to play a game before the championship game? Like, what's the reasoning? Are we out here? I did not like it. I think it definitely impacted the game, but I will give credit to the players and the coaches. They did not complain one bit. Not one iota of excuses, complaints, nothing. Both teams just went out there and dealt with it and kept playing.
I couldn't agree more. And when you mentioned that this was a game that lasted 2 hours and 44 minutes, and so we say it started in the second, maybe the third inning. I mean, you're what, 25, 30 minutes into the game by the second inning, you hope. And then by 45 minutes, you're in the second inning, maybe the third. So this was a steady rain for 2 hours. So yeah, I mean, you do the math here. We're not meteorologists, but you're going to have some puddles and some craziness, like wet-wise, on the field. You're right. I was questioning the whole game. Like, the umpires and everything were just getting, like, berated. The ACC as a whole berated. Like, how could they do that and everything else? But you make a good point of, we thought it was insane. I thought the coaches could have put up more of a fight of, should they be stopping the game? Because if I'm a coach, I'm probably going to be, I say a little dramatic, but, like, I'm going to make a point to let you know how much this is, like, unacceptable. But maybe they didn't feel like that. And we got the chance to talk to Coach Rittman after the game, and that's what he said. He's like, hey, this was pretty unfortunate, but we were both playing in it. So to say that one team had an advantage, I think both teams, like you said, are at a disadvantage in that situation, not one team over the other. So for both of them to battle it out, and unfortunately for Virginia Tech, they just couldn't get the job done. And that's what he said. He said, our girls had to go out there in the same rain, the same crappy conditions, and get outs and throw strikes. And they did. And theirs didn't. And that's not our fault. So could it have been better? Yes. Would we do it differently the next time? I don't know. But was it the same for both of us? Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from that game, obviously Clemson comes back and wins, but it's when Emma Limley went in. She had 4 walks and a hit by pitch and gave up 3 runs. Didn't give up a hit, didn't record it out. And for her to pitch so good against UNC the day before, she was in a great spot for postseason, a phenomenal spot from where she was at the end of the regular season. And then to put her in that situation with the weather, the wet, the cold, she wears those glasses. I mean, as somebody that wears glasses and contacts, that's miserable. They fog up, you got water on them. I mean, there's just so much for a pitcher that has found their spot again and felt good again to be in that situation, which, fine, you put her in, but I would have taken her out before things got really bad for her. And I hate that, and I hope that she does not carry that over because she was back. She was back.
I agree. And this was, like, even on the side of Clemson, this was uncharacteristic errors for them as well. I just remember Maddie Moore with the routine ground ball. Like, didn't even throw it close to the base at first. Like, just, like, chucked the ball into the ground.
Well, you could see she never got a grip.
Exactly.
She could not grip the ball.
When I say it was 8 feet to the right of the first baseman, like, I mean, that might even be little light.
It wasn't her. It was a wet ball. It was sad. But hey, Clemson comes back again, 7-2 in the 6th inning. I think they put out some stat. It was like 396 teams have won with a 7-run lead, and only one team had ever come back, and now 2.
I think it was 693.
600?
I think we will confirm. Okay. So I was like, you're pulling out your phone. So Britt's got it. Okay. We'll go through now Championship Saturday. So this one, because Clemson came back, got the upset again. In that 6th inning, they did close the game out. So Clemson was victorious. Crazy game, crazy stuff. Saturday Championship, number 2, Clemson versus number 1, Florida State. Clemson ended up winning 2-1. Super close game throughout. A home run by Hallie Wakehaser for Florida State in the 3rd set the tone. This was the first score of the game, so Florida State's up 1-0. No other runs until the top of the 7th. Leadoff runner gets on base with a walk. Juju Absel gets pulled. Jazzy Franczyk, who's a top 10 freshman of the year finalist, comes in the game. She's got 1 out, or she's got runner on. She gets an out. So 1 out, somebody on. Kylie Johnson steps into the box. No, this was a Kylie Johnson player for Clemson that did not play or did not get the start the day before in that crazy game versus Virginia Tech. She literally got an at-bat, struck out in that game, and then gets to start on this next day. So for anybody watching at home, short-term memory is crucial because the game doesn't know. It doesn't know that you didn't start yesterday. It doesn't know that you're not an everyday player. She gets behind in a 1-2 count, ends up taking that last pitch over the fence deep since there was a runner on, 2-run blast. Clemson goes up 2-1.
Could not believe it.
Could not believe it. Like, I just sat there and was just like, oh my God.
It was unbelievable to see that happen because, it felt like Florida State had control of that game.
Oh,
100%.
Totally. And this was the storyline there too, was like experience. Like experience, these are both two really good teams. I mean, Clemson was playing with momentum for the last couple of weeks. Like Brittany was saying, going into the tournament, they were the team that she felt like had the most momentum. I was erring on the side of experience. Florida State's an older team. They've been there, done that. There's so many seniors on this Florida State roster. So let's look at that. So then you go to the bottom of the 7th. Florida State obviously gets their chance to hit. Clemson's got the 2-1 lead. Annabelle Wedra, senior, 9-hole, gets up, gets single. Issa Torres, probably one of the hottest hitters in NCAA softball right now, or just this season, gets up, also gets a hit. So 2 runners on base, nobody out. I'm over there like, okay, like this is looking pretty good for the Noles because, again, experience, talent, been there, done that. Janai Kerr, Katie Dack, Michaela Enfield, all 3 seniors getting opportunities in the box to go win the game. None of them get the job done. So when you look at the Florida State situation, these are the hitters that you want to have the bat. Your 2, 3, 4-hole seniors, experienced, a couple hundred ABs under their belt at this point in their careers. So, like, nobody better, right? But Clemson, nobody better. Why not them getting the job done? Like, I just think it was so poetic, so everything.
Are you surprised that they didn't try and bunt Kerr and move runners over, put some pressure on? Because there was no small game attempt at all after getting first and second, point. No outs.
With like a Katie Dack up, yes.
You just need 1 run to keep the game going. Yeah, I felt like that was a little uncharacteristic of Florida State, always just looking to get one more run. What are we going to do to get that next run?
I will say, and I don't know that it worked in that favor or not, but like you think too, being a lefty, you also think bunt, sure, because Kerr has been doing well on her bunt and leaning to it like pretty consistently this year, but thinking as a left-handed hitter, I could easily just roll over something and even get the job done there. Right. So maybe you take your chance of like, can she swing it? Can she just roll over something? She hit a fly ball.
They couldn't advance the runner.
She hit a fly ball, which is what you can't do. Fly ball and strikeout in that situation, tough. So yeah.
But props to Brooke McCoven.
Dude,
she's my hero. I really feel
like her, yeah.
Brooke, I know Reese gets all the credit because she starts the games and gets those wins, but I really think the anchor and the real superstar in the circle, even though facing her as the ACC Pitcher of the Year, I think is Brooke McCoven. Really do. I believe that.
I couldn't agree more. So Clemson and the way they've been playing, they had a 3-6 start to the first 9 games of their season and have been 41-6 since, which insane. Did you find the stat for what the odds were for Clemson to come back?
No, I didn't. It was just hundreds.
Okay.
Hundreds of people have lost going into the 6th inning down by 7.
The odds were not in
Only
their favor.
One team had come back, and now there's been 2 teams with Clemson. I tell you what, they are something special.
Shout out to the Tigers. That was a fun one. So let's talk real quick. Obviously, we're here at, oh my God, I can't talk. ESPN headquarters.
DOG.
Okay, so we're covering tonight the selection show, or like following the selection show. And we're expecting a record-breaking 9 teams to get into the NCAA tournament from the ACC conference, which the last time this happened or anything close would have been 7 teams back in 2015. So it's been a long time, a decade of work for the ACC. And honestly, no time is better than now, because why not the ACC? First team we expect to get in is Florida State. Give me your quick thoughts on Florida State.
I think they're a top 5 seed. I don't think losing to Clemson moves them down at all. I think they've put a good body of work. They've played a great strength of schedule. They've been consistent. Their 4 pitchers in the circle, I think, give them a great opportunity in the regional, super regional format. You know, a lot of these teams ride one pitcher, and then they have some depth behind them. But Florida State has 4 legitimate pitchers. When you need to win 2 out of 3 in supers or beat a team twice in regionals, they have 4 pitchers that can do that. And I think, and we say it every year, Lonnie does everything throughout the season for postseason. So every inning they've pitched, it was with a purpose to get them ready for postseason. I think they're sitting in a great spot.
Absolutely. Next team we expect to get into the tournament is going to be Clemson. We are expecting them to get another top 16 seed and be a national seed.
Yeah, and I think anybody that gets sent to Clemson's regional right now is not happy about it because you don't want to go. Yeah, they're young, but they still have some seniority there that have been great leaders, but they're just so freaking hot. Like, if there's an out left on the board, you better buckle down because we saw it in 3 games in the ACC tournament, and they've got to be feeling good.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that lack of experience would maybe be concerning, but this is like a freshman team. This is a team as a whole that just doesn't care. And when I say that they don't care in a really good way, like they don't care that you're the number one team in the country. They don't care that you're the number one team in the conference. They don't care that they're losing by 7 runs going into the bottom of the 6th. Like, they do not care. And so they just go out there, they play free, and they have
saw
fun.
them do that against Tennessee, come back in that game a couple weeks ago. They don't. Who are you? Do I still have some outs left to score? Let's go. Game on.
But Duke is another team. We expect them to get a top 16 seed because of their strength of schedule is just so good. Hardest, right, in regard to RPI?
Out of top 3 now. For a while, they were number 1. For most of the season, they were definitely number 1.
Virginia Tech could be on the bubble of a national seed.
Yeah. I think if the selection committee saw Limley in that first game, definitely in. I think their body of work deserves to be in. I think their wins against top 50 RPI team gets them in. They had a couple quad 3, quad 4 losses, but I think they have a great argument to be in the 16 spot. 16 spot.
Agree. And this is, again, an offense and a pitching staff, too, that have really impressed, I think.
They have Corey McMillan, guys. I will say we did not see Michelle Chatfield this weekend, who did go down with an injury. No, I have nothing to elaborate on that against Florida State in Game 3, but she was not there. I don't know if she was not there, but she was not on the field. Right. Maybe an extra week of rest before regionals. Yeah. That would be big for them to get back.
This is a Stanford team that we expect not to necessarily be a national seed, but just to make the tournament. They're probably going to be in that 5th highest, at least, position from the ACC. I'm going to go to somebody's regional and hopefully ruin their day. This is a top offense, a good, deeper pitching staff, trying to limit the free passes that we've noted all year long.
They've been to back-to-back World Series, so they know how to win in the regional format and the super regionals. They've done it for 2 years straight, and a lot of their players have done it because they're a very much experienced team, older upperclassmen team.
Good stuff. Virginia, this is a team that I feel like has the last couple of years just been impressive. They went to Tennessee last year in the regional and gave Tennessee a good battle, right? Good fight. So
2 shutouts against Miami of Ohio, who had hit like 5,000 home runs last year and shut them out. And I think last year, you always say this, once you get to the World Series, your first year, you're happy to be there. Like, we made it. And then the next year, all right, we're here to win. So they had made their first postseason ever, right?
Or at least in the last decade or something.
Second ever, I think. Yeah. But first back-to-back this year. And now it's those same girls coming back, not just happy to be in a regional, but going to win.
And really impactful players for the program, too. Jade Hilton, obviously at the helm of that. Kelly Ayer, too. Really good stuff. So Cal, this is a Cal team that's been super chippy. You know, we say a lot of the time that teams and kids, right, take the personality or a lot of the traits from their parents. I feel like Cal has taken a lot of the personality from head coach Chelsea Spencer, and she's known for being a really gritty, competitive player, somebody that doesn't go down without a fight. Even, again, the big ones and things like that getting tossed, I think just shows her passion.
And I think she recruits those players.
Yeah, too. I agree. She fits that persona for sure, and that's something that they take pride in. So they're just a scrappy team, could really, again, go to a regional and give somebody a run for their money. All right, our 2 teams that are potentially just a little bit further down the stretch, maybe on the bubble, not so much Georgia Tech. I think they're pretty safe.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, UNC. What do you got on both of those?
I would be shocked if either one of them were left out. I would be shocked. I would compare whoever got in over them, and sure, we would have a very valid argument as to why the committee messed up, but we're not going to get negative. I think both of these teams finished strong, especially with Georgia Tech taking that win over Cal in that fashion. And they beat Oklahoma State earlier. They beat Georgia earlier. So they have some top 25 wins there. I think North Carolina gets dinged with their strength of schedule, but they've won every game they're supposed to.
Right.
They have none of the bad losses. They've taken care of business when they need to take care of business, and then they have a clean sheet. So I expect to see them in.
Well, and the ACC being the second toughest conference schedule, I think helps that case too for both of these teams, for all of the teams, of course, but specifically Georgia Tech, UNC, with the strength and talent of the conference as a whole. You know that your out of conference schedule is super important, but your games in conference are also beneficial too. So really good stuff. We are hoping tonight. Again, that selection show is airing at 7 p.m. Eastern. We've got you covered. We're going to have you on the ACC Network at 8 p.m. to kind of debrief and give our thoughts on how the bracket plays out.
Celebrate this
Knock
conference.
on wood that we are going to have a conference high 9 teams in the tournament. We are really excited. Really love what we're seeing from the ACC.
Let's do it.
Let's
we'll
go.
See you later.